another blitz. Hurts takes it right up the gut. Touchdown Eagles. Here's the deep ball. Got hit as he let it go. Oh, Devontae Smith. What a catch. From 54 for the win. On the way. It is there. And the Eagles remain unbeaten.
Merry Christmas, dude.
Merry Christmas. It's been a great holiday season, just unfortunately not so great for the Eagles last week. Eagles actually came in with a loss, losing to the Commanders 36-33 in a tough-fought battle. It came down to the stretch, a game where we lost our starting quarterback, and it definitely took its toll on the Eagles. So let's just initially hear your thoughts on what you saw out of this game.
Well, Jalen Hurts got hurt in the first quarter. He got hurt halfway through the first quarter. I know Kenny Pickett came in, played decently. It was 21-7, and we were looking good. We got 5 takeaways in this game. If you look at the box score, and you don't look at how Jaden Daniels did, it literally feels like we dominated time possession. We dominate the turnover ratio. Like, we have the ball for almost 13 minutes longer throughout the game than them. It did not feel like that. I don't know about you. I know I was watching with you. The first quarter felt like an eternity. I have no idea why. But looking at like the box score, it was just watching that game in general was just very frustrating. It was our game to win the entire time. Obviously, we could talk about the Smitty drop. You could talk about like the Saquon drop. You could talk about all these little nuances that went their way. You could talk about them getting to the 40 every single kickoff. You could talk about the game-winning drive that they had when they still needed a touchdown to win the game. All these things just added up for the Eagles, and it was just a divisional loss. Like I said last time on here, I said I don't know why we're gonna lose. I don't know. This is what it is. It's literally things you can't make up. Jalen Hurts going out, just drops, miscues. Kenny Pickett having to be in there, just having to pound the ball with Saquon, but was kind of just like unaffected because they could just stack the box because they knew Kenny Pickett was not great. It just all of it collided to a 3-point loss. Like that's it. Everything kind of just didn't go our way, other than the ball and turnovers. But other than that, it's an unfortunate loss. What are your thoughts on it? Are you worried?
Yeah, I mean, it was a disappointing loss. Obviously, it wasn't what you've grown to expect out of the Eagles from this season. Obviously, there were a lot of factors that go into it, including the obvious one of losing Jalen Hurts in the first quarter and how much that affected the offense moving forward. Although Kenny Pickett had a good game, like he did as much as you can ask out of a backup quarterback. There were a lot of things that I didn't like that the Eagles handled. And first of all, I want to talk about the fact that I had a real big problem with the fact that when Jalen Hurts got his concussion and went into protocol, they gave him his helmet back and had him ready to go back in the game, and then somebody uncleared him. And that's a really strange thing to happen in the concussion protocol. Somebody messed up, and that was really strange, and I didn't like the way it looked. Something about it was fishy all around. But he definitely had a concussion, don't get me wrong. But I found it fishy that either somebody cleared him with that concussion or the fact that somebody cleared him and then somebody else came down and said, no, never mind. It was a little weird. I found that to be strange. I don't know if you noticed any of that, but
I heard people saying that the NFL took like a double look at it, and they basically retracted it themselves, saying putting him like stated into it, even though it was maybe not the trainer's official decision or of how it went.
Even in that aspect, until they officially clear you, they're never supposed to give your helmet back to you. So the fact that they even gave the helmet back to him and had him ready to get back in the game was just strange to me. But continue.
No, I could not tell you anything more. I don't know. I mean, obviously, up to this point, it's Thursday and he's still in the practice this week. We don't know how bad it is. We don't know any. We were kept in the dark from all of it. We haven't really. I don't know about you. Have you heard the report of a confirmed concussion other than like severity of it or anything? Because I really haven't.
Well, it's definitely a confirmed concussion, but there's no indication on the severity of it because you never really know. Obviously, we both played football and we both had concussions and we both had different level of severity of concussions. And sometimes you can be completely fine in a week, and sometimes it could take a month. You never really know with concussions. It is a little concerning that there hasn't been any indication that he's making any progress yet. I was hoping that we would see that. But at the same time, with the way that last week went down, it pretty much knocked us out of any chance of getting the 1 seed. And there's not really a whole lot of reason to bring him back unless he's fully ready. So obviously we do want to win this game against the Cowboys this week because then it locks up the division, locks up the number 2 seed, and we don't have to worry about anything else moving forward into the playoffs outside of maybe Saquon wanting to break his record, which is still possible, but I still find it pretty unlikely. Depends on the way this week goes and how much he's going to be in the game plan. And that will move into my second point of why I was disappointed in the Eagles. And I'm going to go into the coaching in this aspect because I felt like the coaching of this Commanders game was pretty poor all around. The special teams did a terrible job. They let them start with the ball at midfield every single kickoff. And I understand that weather was a factor and, these kind of things happen. But A, Washington did not have trouble getting the ball down the field on their kickoffs. And B, if you're seeing something wrong on the field and something's not working, you shouldn't keep trying to do the exact same thing. I don't care what you try to change up, but I don't care if you squib it. I don't care if you start kicking onside kicks. I don't really care, but you should have changed something up in that regard and just done something different to make sure that the ball is not advancing past the 45-yard line every time they start their field. And my other problem was with the offense once Kenny Pickett came in. Like I said, I felt like Kenny Pickett actually did a pretty good job with what was handed to him. He made quick decisions and accurate passes. He does not have any zip on his ball whatsoever. He has no throwing power, so that does not help him. But the problem is when Kenny Pickett's in, he's pretty much limited to like 5 to 8 yards in his passing range because he can't throw it over the top because he simply doesn't have the arm strength. And he can't get balls into tight windows quickly. So now that obviously leaves Saquon Barkley as our main component of our offense. But when you're going to pull Kenny Pickett into the game and just run Jalen Hurts' offense with Kenny Pickett there, it's not going to work the same. Obviously, when you've got Jalen in the game, you have to worry about him breaking outside the pocket, throwing the ball over the top, throwing the ball over the middle, those sorts of things. And with Kenny Pickett, you don't have to worry about any of those things. So when you're sitting here running, RPOs out of the shotgun and read options out of the shotgun, not only are you starting 5 yards back from the line of scrimmage, but they already know that you're not running a read option. So they not only stack the box with their linebackers, but they can also crash the DNs with no lack of forgiveness. And that's why Saquon was never able to even get to the line of scrimmage because A, he's starting with no head of steam in the shotgun position. B, they can crash their DN, so they're getting to the line of scrimmage at the same time he's getting to the line of scrimmage. And C, again, you refuse to change anything with Kenny Pickett being able to, work to his strengths. And to me, again, we've been saying this all year, that would have been to put the ball under center and run out of the either I formation or just under center in general. Now, the whole story leading up to this point in the season was that, we've come to think or presume that Jalen Hurts is the reason that they don't run the ball under center because he doesn't like taking snaps under center. That's the story that's been out there. That's what everybody assumes. So when Jalen Hurts comes out of the game, why are we still not running anything under center? Is it really Jalen Hurts' fault, or do they just really not like running the ball under center? I'm not really sure, but that would have probably helped a lot in the running game aspect of it because then you don't have to worry about those DMs crashing in the same regard because Saquon's got a much quicker straight line to the line of scrimmage. At least he's not getting tackled for losses every time. He'd be getting closer to 2 or 3 yards every carry. And I felt like that really hurt them big time.
Who do you think is to blame, though? Is it a lack of trust in Kenny with the coaches, because they're just running, or do they not, they can't? Do they think Kenny can't adjust by trying? Do they not have anything else that they could adjust to with Kenny? Like I felt like he was running it straight up the middle, just like in RPOs, it was like the same play, and we knew we were going to get stopped, and we just were like, all right, we'll eat it.
Yeah, well, that's like part of my point. Not only did they not change the game plan once Kenny Pickett was in the game. I shouldn't say that. What they did to change it was they made their current offense just very vanilla, and they probably ran about 5 different plays while Kenny Pickett was in the offense. And that leads me to believe that they run their game planning for every game under the assumption that Jalen Hurts is freaking Superman and can't get hurt. And they had no preparation in terms of what they could do if Jalen Hurts came out of the game. That's what I gathered off of watching that game, is that they do not prepare for if Jalen Hurts has to come out of the game. And to me, that felt evident because not only did they not change the game plan for Kenny Pickett, but not only did they make the play calling vanilla for Kenny Pickett, but they didn't change the play calling to benefit him in any way. And I think there's a lot of ways that you could have done that. He was completing his short passes very accurately and very quickly. If you had start running screens, or you would start running, just quick slant patterns, which I know they were doing, if you would start running the ball under center, using play action passes more efficiently under center, I think that you would have seen more success out of Kenny Pickett in this game.
I mean, just look who caught the ball. Like, it was literally Devonta and AJ the entire time. Yes, Saquon missed the one downfield, and Kenny had like a little short one. But that's literally everyone that caught the ball. Like, It was 3 people. Like, you could tell it was. I thought he couldn't go through progressions. I don't know if they gave him the opportunity to go through progressions. I literally
truthfully, he wasn't getting the opportunity because they were sending full-out run blitzes every time he snapped the ball. So he had to make quick decisions. He wasn't looking through his progressions. He had to go to number 1 or number 2 every time. He didn't have a chance.
And obviously that pick was literally just showed us, like, he was focusing on AJ, and pressure came, just threw it to the linebacker immediately.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a lack of experience mistake for Kenny Pickett, because that guy that intercepted the ball was the read guy for that play. He was reading that linebacker on that route, and that linebacker simply just tricked him. He got him to believe that he was cutting inside, and he never was. He was never planning on it. He tried to bait the quarterback, and he did exactly that. And that's just a lack of experience from Kenny Pickett. But it just felt like the play calling on all sides between offense, defense, and special teams was poor. It was a bad game from the coaches. It was a bad game from the players. And it was a bad game from all facets of the Eagles this game. It just got sloppy. A lot of penalties. Obviously, we haven't talked about C.J. Gardner getting thrown out. And to me, that was almost as big of an impact as Jalen Hurts coming out of the game. Because although I like to crap talk CJ a little bit sometimes, because I do think that he makes some boneheaded mistakes every once in a while. Him coming out of that game made a huge communication problem for the rest of the secondary. And CJ is the loudest guy on the field out there. He's always running his mouth, and that includes the communication of where they're supposed to be, how things are ran, and what the play call is. And when you took him off the field, I think you saw a noticeable difference in the way the defense was covering. I feel like you started to see lack of people in the right spots. You started to see blown coverages, and you started to see, just holes out there. So what did you think about the whole CJ Gardner-Johnson situation of him going out? Because it was definitely a little strange, considering he didn't do any
physical altercation,
typical malicious act. Like,
to me, it's assault. I mean, in this game, I know you can say things that are just absurd, and you shouldn't be able to say those things to anybody. But if you're playing this game of football, it's at what point can you not? People talk crap all the time. Like, everyone wants to know, what did he say? Did he say something? Like, what did he say to the ref? Like, he had to have said something that while he's yelling at the guy, and the guy hits him over the head, knocks off his helmet. Yes, it was loose, but still hits him. And he gets a flag? Like, that was the first one. Like, how do you give that to him? Like, what could he possibly have said to make it that bad? And I know.
No, continue.
No, I do you know what he could have said?
Well, no, I don't know what he said, of course. Obviously, it had to have been pretty bad for him to get thrown out, but I do want to point this out as well, that for verbal accusations like that, it's not like he just said something once and twice and they threw him out. Like, for something verbal, they had to have told him repeatedly to calm down and that he was getting a warning. Like, it had to have been, like, I guarantee you, he probably got told minimum of 5 to 6 times to shut up. And he wouldn't do it. So in that regard, it's definitely on him. Now, I do think that 100% they were looking out for him to do something wrong, and they were just making an example out of him, saying we're not putting up with it. Like, I do think that I've never seen somebody get thrown out just for yelling at somebody. I think it's not only soft, but it's a little ridiculous, especially when it's a defensive leader. But there's no doubt that they gave him warnings that he ignored. So that doesn't help his matter in any case. He does need to learn to shut the hell up when he's told to shut up.
Yeah. But at the same time, that's what he is. Like, he's voted by like other players as a crap talker.
But you have to understand that you can only take it so far. Like, there is a level where you have to cool it back. Like, if you get your first personal foul, you got to understand as a leader that you got to shut up. Like, I understand doing that as much as you can, but like, there comes a point where you have to realize, all right, that's enough.
Well, I think the real issue is that no one's gonna say anything to CJ. Like, is Slay gonna come over and actually like say, "Yo, like, you gotta shut your mouth"? Like, will he? I don't know.
Probably not.
I don't think Cooper is. Quinion actually might. Like, if Quinion wanted to, but he's still a rookie. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm like. You know, like when Brandon Graham didn't shut up, at least you had Cox there to turn over to him and say, "Yo," like that was funny. That's what I think of. But like, and you probably do make a fair point. I didn't really think about it as much.
But again, it doesn't always have to be on the defensive player's position in that as well. It also comes down to coaching.
Yeah.
Again, the coaches have to be on top of him, making sure they know he's going to act like that, and they have to be on top of him, making sure that he understands he can't do that.
That's 100% right. But it's hard for me to not get mad at them throwing him out just for verbal. He could have said anything, but I didn't see him talking to the refs that often. Maybe he was, and he 100% was, because you just don't throw out a guy like that. So you have to assume that, but anything verbal, I just think is stupid to throw anybody out. And I'll say that about like anybody. I think like if you're gonna say something stupid and you deserve to get hit, make it happen in the field of play. Like, someone will chip you a little harder next time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just like, if you can't talk, like, back up your crap talk, then you just get hit there in the play, and that's what I think it should be.
But, yeah, I completely agree. I do. I think it was definitely incredibly soft of the refs, and on top of that, I thought the refs, not even just on top of us, although we got more penalties than the Commanders did, they were throwing just so many penalties throughout the entire game, not just on us, but the Commanders as well. I know we got some calls that like probably weren't 100%, including some of those pass interference calls on AJ. I hate when the game is run by the refs. I hate that. It drives me nuts. And this game felt like, let me see how many penalties there were between both teams. There was 16 penalties between the two teams, and that's too much. And I understand that some of them were actually penalties and all that, but it's, let the guys play. Like, we want to watch them play football. We don't want to watch you guys hop on the screen and get your limelight and say, holding. Like, just let the game play.
The Lattimore stuff Lattimore was literally going to hook his arm every single time, and he really didn't care. It was kind of funny to like watch.
It was. I mean, don't get me wrong. Lattimore was not some innocent man in all this, but like, in fact, 2 out of those 3 pass interference calls probably were pass interference. The one call, the first one, where he was holding AJ's arm and AJ was holding him, that one's just a tough one because looking at the replay, obviously you can see AJ holding him, and that's probably an offensive pass interference. But there's literally zero chance of a ref seeing that mid-game. While all they can see is the cornerback grabbing onto his arm. That's just like, you got to be realistic in that regard, that nobody's going to see that AJ's fist is closed while the cornerback is grabbing onto his arm, like cradling it. Like, it's just not going to happen. Like, I've seen all these, Twitter and Instagram warriors out there trying to explain that AJ should have gotten offensive pass interference. Like, thank you, Captain Obvious. Like, you have to understand that these calls are getting made in a split second. It's not like they get to sit here and look at these reviews because there's no reviewing penalties. I think people forget that sometimes. So it's at their discretion, and of course that looked like pass interference on the corner. If you see the corner grabbing the offensive player's arm, it's going to be a pass interference every single time. Simple. It's not that hard to understand.
22 points let up in the fourth quarter by this Eagles defense. Do you have any slight concern about how good this defense obviously has been stellar since week 4 on? Do you have any concern with? I know CJ was out, and I know we were a little banged up here and there, but do you have any concern going forward with this Eagles defense? I know we spoke about it before. Who do we want the ball? Jalen's hands or the defense? This is the second time this year that we only have 3 losses, but the second time this year where we've given up a game-winning drive while we were winning the game in almost the final couple minutes. Do you have any concern with the defense going forward and going into because we're basically almost at the playoffs?
Yeah.
And so, do you have any concern going forward? And just did it scare you at all? And if so, why?
No, it didn't scare me at all. Not even a little bit, frankly, honestly. It just this was an ultimate storm of unfortunate events all around. And I know that you can't make the full argument that Jalen being out is the reason the defense played bad because obviously he doesn't play defense, and it all happened in the fourth quarter. He was already long out of the game, yada, yada. What Jalen Hurts being out of the game does affect so much more than people are thinking about. And it affects the offense in the way of Jalen being able to throw the ball over the top and being able to run out of the pocket means that their DNs can't crash. They cannot load the box to stop Saquon because then Jalen Hurts will beat you over the top. You have to have 2 safeties back there ready in case that he can get to those guys, Devontae and AJ. You have to be prepared for Saquon to be able to run the ball, and you have to be prepared for Jalen to be able to run the ball. And as we saw in that first quarter, came out 21-0 or 21-6 or 7 or whatever. And Jalen broke off quite a few big runs before he got hurt. And obviously we wish that he had protected himself a little bit better on that one. But Jalen is he doesn't look that fast, but just the threat of Jalen being able to run the ball changes the defensive game planning. And it makes a huge difference. And the last point of Jalen Hurts coming out of the game is that as soon as he came out of the game, momentum shifted drastically backwards in their favor. So losing Jalen leads to the offense moving slower, the momentum shifting out of their favor, and then you lose CJ Gardner-Johnson and lose communication on the defensive side. Now all the momentum's against the defense. They lost their communicative leader in the back end. And suddenly you start seeing, broken coverages and mismatches and all these different problems. And it's all of this is all compounding to this point. If you have, I do truthfully think you can say, and I don't think anyone would disagree, that if you have Jalen in that game, it's not a close game there.
Well, but on top of turnovers, 6 points. Jalen will convert one of those into a touchdown. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but
we went 3 of 17 on, or 3 of 16 rather, on third down conversions. That can't happen. I mean, and I understand that Kenny Pickett was making good decisions, but you can't trust Kenny Pickett to, try to go for it on a fourth down the same way you can trust Jalen Hurts. How many times did we get stopped on 3rd and 1 and not go for it? There were a lot of times in that game, going back to the coaching, that I wished that we had just gone for it, just for the act of switching the momentum back in our favor. And I thought that kicking a punt or a field goal or missing on a fourth down conversion all had the same effect no matter what. So to me, it felt much more important to go for it a couple of those times than to just let it slide, because you're not gaining any momentum with Kenny Pickett if you get a 3 and out and give the ball right back.
Yeah.
And if you can convert that third down or that fourth down, then momentum starts to come back to you and it's not seeming so out of control. And just handing the ball back to them constantly was just too much. It might as well have been the same as turning the ball over 5 times.
Yeah, I mean, you were saying the one drive when we ended up pinning them at their own 4. You said go for it. And I'm like, well, they're going to have it at their own 4. And then they have a 3-minute drive that goes 96 yards for a touchdown. It's like, like, and it's, is that the defense's fault to blame? No, they had a couple great plays, like good balls up in the air. It was Quinn let up his first touchdown. Like there was, so it was a mess.
It was a mess. Things became a mess, and I think that all starts at Jalen Hurts getting hurt. And I think that if Jalen Hurts stays in that game, they stay in control. There's no freak out on either side of the ball. When they started that game 21-7, they had allowed like a total of 17 yards of offense. The defense was playing the way the defense always plays. It was once things got a little spiraled and out of control that the defense started looking shaky. So I think that I think people are really underrating how much momentum plays a difference in the way the game gets played. And again, I don't think this is a very close game if the momentum stayed in our side with Jalen Hurts in the beginning of the game. And obviously, it's a huge what if. Football is football, and he got hurt. It is what it is. But it doesn't. My whole point being that I'm not concerned about this team and the way they played.
Well, I mean, we also have to give a little credit to Jaden Daniels. I mean, if you want to look at just what he did, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, dude. I mean, they couldn't run the ball on us, whatsoever. Brian Thomas had 10 carries and 24 yards, and they ran the ball another 5 times for 8 yards total. Jaden Daniels was escaped on that 4th and 11, which is ridiculous.
That was a heartbreaker. That was another huge momentum switcher.
He played very well, and I have to give him a little credit.
I do not mean to take anything away from Jaden Daniels. He had a great game, but I do think that the Eagles killed themselves in that game, and I think that had they been playing to their standard, I don't think Jaden Daniels would have had the same kind of success. But nonetheless, what happened. There's no point in giving these what-if scenarios because the situation is the situation.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, it does stink that we lost our chance at the 1 seed most likely, but it's almost a breath of relief to just not have to worry about that going forward. But to move into our next segue, that does mean that we have to win one of these next 2 games. So going into this Cowboys week, what are you expecting out of this week? Because the Cowboys have been playing pretty good football lately.
What am I expecting? I have to know who's playing. We talked about it a little prior to the podcast and a little bit right now. If Jalen's playing, Kenny Pickett's dealing with a rib injury. We just got news that CeeDee's going to be out for the year for Dallas. Obviously, Cooper Rush is starting over there because Dak's been out for the entire year. This Cowboys team has nothing to play for. They got kicked out of the playoffs because of Washington winning. But they have won 4 out of the last 5 games. I think I don't see this game being hard for us, even with Kenny Pickett. I don't really think Dallas is a good team.
I don't either, but they're as of the last probably 4 weeks, they've started to look like
the last 5
Dallas team that you expect to see.
Yeah, but again, I mean, you beat the. All right, it doesn't really. Yeah, they beat the Commanders. That was a good win. The Giants, you beat the Giants. Okay.
Yeah, they beat Tampa Bay.
You beat the Panthers. The Tampa Bay win was good. It was Tampa kind of lost that game, but
yeah, I know they fumbled at the end of the game. They probably could have scored. I get it, but again, the situation is what happened.
Yeah.
So
no, I mean,
I can't say I have no concern. I would truthfully say that I wish we were playing the Giants this week rather than the Cowboys. But I wish on the schedule the games were just reversed because it's a meaningful game. If we win this game, it locks up the division and the 2 seed, and that's something that we really need. If jumping from the 2 seed to the 6 seed, if we were to lose this game and lose the division to the Commanders, be a huge, huge problem. After having such a great season, that's a drastic switch of what kind of success we saw out of this season. So
100%.
This is a must-win, kind of.
I mean, it also outlines for next week. You could essentially give yourselves a mini bye. If you wanted to. You don't have to play your starters next week, especially if you're banged up. Say if Hurts is banged up.
I guarantee if we do win this game, they won't play their starters next week.
Yeah, and we'll see how close we'll get in that whole Saquon. But it doesn't matter at this point because he'll play next week if we lose this game. And it doesn't. Everyone's going to play, but I think this is a must win as much as like you kind of just pointed out. It's just Dallas. You always want to. I want to beat Dallas twice in 1 year. It would be nice.
It would be nice.
Like I don't like Dallas.
Unlucky for Dallas, they're coming into Philly and we're wearing the Kelly Green jerseys. So it's hard to lose in the Kelly Green jerseys, and call it superstition, but look good, feel good, play good is a legitimate feeling, and I think those guys play better football when they're playing in their Kelly Greens. So that's an extra little oomph for the Eagles this week. But
I'm very excited. And
I personally don't think you're going to see Jalen Hurts. I think you're probably going to see Kenny Pickett. He was a limited participant in practice. I know he's a little banged up, but if he's participating, I expect him to probably be playing in the game. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing Tanner McKee, but I think that you saw this week Kenny Pickett in his post-game conferences talking about the fact that it was difficult for him not working with the ones ever.
Yeah.
He never worked with the ones, and that made a big difference for him to just jump in and be able to handle it.
Which also kind of just odd. Like, does every team do that? Just like you never get incorporated. I know you can't do it all during the week, but like even the off season and like.
Yeah, I don't really understand myself. I'm not too sure. Maybe it's because Jalen Hurts needs that extra work to work on his passing. Maybe it's because they just think that Jalen isn't going to get hurt. Maybe we're misunderstanding things and they don't run their second string with the ones very often. I don't really know, but I think that this all factors into a lack of being prepared for this kind of situation. And you would think for a team that won their first Super Bowl off of this situation, they'd be more prepared for it, truthfully. I did see, I don't remember the source, so don't hold me to it. I did see a rumor of us being linked to Ryan Tannehill and maybe reaching out to him for a late entrance of security, but I'm not too sure. If that is a truthful rumor, then that concerns me for what they think of where Jalen's at right now and where his injury has him at the moment. So I don't really know what to expect, but one thing I do want to point out is that I hope that this shows everybody how valuable and important Jalen Hurts is to this team, and we stop hearing the plethora of Jalen hate that we get every week.
You know what? I don't care about those people anymore. I don't care if they either see it or they don't at this point. Like,
I'd love to say that I don't care about it, but it irritates the crap out of me.
I really just want him to play because if you don't see it at this point, you're just a straight hater. And I still hear people like hating on him, say like, well, like obviously your backup's not going to be as good as your starter. Like, shut up. Like the offense looks completely different. It's not even close.
Hey, Steven, did you know that the Eagles, without Jalen Hurts, since he's become their starter, have not won a single game? Not one.
The entire season?
No, his whole career. Anytime Jalen Hurts has sat out of a game, the Eagles have not won it.
Dude, Matt, that's clearly a coincidence, okay?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, of course.
It's clearly we just had down games. It wasn't his, but it's not Jalen's fault that we won the other games, He got lucky.
Of course. And mind you, it's not like we had two starting caliber quarterbacks as backup quarterbacks for these times either. No. It just happens to be a big coincidence. It's
all coincidence, dude. I mean, you just got to get better backups. We need like Nick Foles to come out of his prime and put Jesus' hand on his shoulder again and like play like 7 touchdowns. You know what I mean? Like,
hey man, I told you we should have got Daniel Jones, man. Should have got Daniel Jones.
Dude, someone called in WIP and said we should sign Daniel Jones. And the guy was like, "Do you even watch football? Like, you signed by the Vikings 1, 2, like, shut up. 3, it would be funny though if
it would be absolutely hilarious if he ran us on a Nick Foles run. Holy crap, would that be funny?
Well, no. Just even coming in, him and Saquon winning the division and then playing the Giants next week and just starting him anyway because we won the division with Daniel Jones and Saquon.
I never hoped for anybody to be hurt. When I saw Mahomes go out with his ankle injury, I was like, this is the perfect setup for Wentz's magical, redemption arc. Getting in the exact same situation as Nick Foles, taking the Chiefs all the way to the Super Bowl and winning his Super Bowl would be the most epic story to ever happen.
Patty instead said, I'd rather play on a high ankle sprain than let you do anything with this team. And he killed them. He went out there and killed them.
Just imagine going into next season, you start having a QB controversy between Carson Wentz and Patrick Mahomes. It would be awesome.
Instead, he went out there and shat on the Steelers because he's Patty Mahomes and doesn't care.
None of those ankle injuries are real. He just does that to boost ratings.
Yeah, dude, they're just bored. I've been trying to tell you guys this. It's just they're just bored and
they like to keep things interesting. I'm also kidding about the injury thing. Of course, it's not fake, but I do think that there's a part of me that would believe them just making things interesting because this dark magic that they run down there and win games off of makes no sense, and I'm sick of it. Because they look terrible while they do it. They really do. But they always do it. So I'm running out of excuses for them being able to lose. Like they just don't do it.
I mean, we watched Brady for our entire childhoods. It was very annoying to see, there's 2 minutes left and Brady has the ball. There's no way he does it again.
No, they're winning.
There's no way he does it again. Oh, wait, that's the 30th time I said that in the past 5 years. There's no way he does it. Oh, wait, he did it again. He did it again. Gosh.
It's like me betting on Jalen Hurts' passing yards. For the record, anyone listening to this, don't put Jalen Hurts' passing yards in any of your bets anymore because I've done it all year. And I lower the prop every game. And something still happens for him to miss by 5 yards. So do yourselves all a favor and just leave Jalen Hurts' passing yards out of your betting props. Great betting advice from your boy over here. And I apologize for the loudness of my boy over here.
Power. All right, let's get into how do you think this game's going to go? And what do you think the final score is going to be?
I think that there's again going to be a lack of defense from both sides of the ball, actually. I hope that our defense steps up and does their thing. But like I said, I do think that, A, being a divisional game, and B, the Cowboys just kind of clicking better on offense. I understand that they are going to be missing CD, so that might take more of a toll than I expect. But I'm thinking like a 28-24 type of game.
Do you expect our offense to get better than it did last week just because of a week of rest and practice?
I expect them – I hope that they game plan better around Kenny Pickett this time, knowing that he's going to be the starting quarterback. That's my hope.
You can hope all you want.
I don't think that wouldn't be better. We scored 33 points last week, so 28 is not more than 33.
Well – I guess that is math. I am a little bit scared of Micah Parsons. I think this game is going to be a little sloppy, but I think our defense is going to hold up. I really think our defense kills Cooper Rush and solidifies that they're going to carry us this game. And I really think it's going to. I think we score. I think it's going to be like 20 to 9. I don't think they get a touchdown. I don't know why. I'm going 20 to This game, I can see Micah just forcing a force. I can already see him come around a corner and hitting the ball into Kenny Pickett's hands. That might happen 3 times in this game.
It might. It very well might.
How many times Lane jumps on the ball will literally determine the outcome if they win this game or not. I'm already scared of it. I can already see it coming because
I can already see it coming too. But alas, I do think that the offense will run a little bit more smooth this week. I hope that the defense comes back to their form, A, and B, the lack of CD hurts them more than I'm expecting it to because they really don't have a playmaker on offense left, really.
Yeah, that's freaking Rico Dowdle.
Their best 2 players are Rico Dowdle and Brandon Cooks. So
how about we do something and not kick it to Tolbert?
That would be nice. I hope we can actually kick it out of the back of the end zone this week.
That'd be great because that would really kill us if he was able to do what Luke McCaffrey was doing because he's actually very explosive.
Yeah, and if Luke McCaffrey can do it, then I promise you that guy can.
Turbin is so fast. Like Belichick was literally said when he got that return, I think it was against the Bengals or somebody. He's like, "Why do you kick it to him?" He was on a Manicast, and I was like, I'm just thinking about him as a coach, and I'm like, you're right.
It's a fair point.
But
you remember Tom Coughlin freaking out at Brad Wing for punting it to Deshaun Jackson?
Oh my gosh. Did you hear Djax talk about that?
No.
He personally took a moment to thank the punter for kicking him that ball. He goes, that was one of the best moments ever in my career. And I just want to thank you. I forget what his name is, but he said his name like 3 times. He's like, I really want to thank you for kicking me that ball. Because without you, I wouldn't have that moment in my life. And this moment that lives in everyone's mind for eternity. Because you kicked me that ball. It was awesome. I'll send you the clip.
And speaking of, congratulations to Djax on his hiring of being the new head coach at Delaware State. That'll be interesting to see. I never really thought of Deshaun Jackson as being the coaching type, but maybe he'll have that kind of impact on the players that they just kind of gather around and respect him.
Yeah, let's go with that.
We'll see. I can't say what I've gained off of watching Deshaun Jackson through his career made me think he'd be a great coach one day. But
he might be good at finding a great speed receiver. I mean,
to be fair, I would have thought the same thing watching Deion Sanders in his NFL career, and I think he's a great coach. So,
to be fair, I think playing defense it helps being coach or playing quarterback. Just seeing the entire field. I know there's been like linebackers, like. I just say, think about coaches that are players. Most of them are defensive. I don't know if that's just my head, but just trying to think.
Dan Campbell's a tight end.
All right, then maybe it doesn't matter.
I would have to really think to think about what players are coaches.
Any wide receiver worked out as a good coach.
Was Antonio Pierce a defensive player? I don't remember, honestly.
I don't know. This is going to be bad. My computer's about to die, so I will sign off with you guys.
Yeah, we'll wrap this up. I'll make this quick. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you guys always. If you did like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. We'll be back each week giving our updates and reviews on the games of that week. So make sure you tune back in next week for our update on the Cowboys and what we expect out of the Giants next week. We always appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining us. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and go Birds as always. We will see you.
Go Birds, baby. F Dallas.